Hello, everybody. My name is Peter Sassman. I'm president and co founder of Haptic Solutions Incorporated. And today we're going to be looking at how to install the Cilia SDK and control panel. The Cilia is a device that adds smells to your games and experiences, as you can see over here. So let's go ahead and open up a browser and go to hapticsoul.com, and we'll open up the software tab, then scroll down and download the most recent version of the SDK and control panel, which should be towards the top. Okay, and that's downloading now. Okay, go ahead and right click and show in folder. From here, right click and extract all. Okay, once that finishes, go ahead and open up the SDK and control panel folder and enter the SDK installer. Now double click the setup.exe, click more info, and run anyway. Just go ahead and click next all the way through and say yes and close. Okay, so now the Cilia will light up. Okay, and if it doesn't, just go ahead and unplug and replug the Cilia if you have possibly have a loose USB connection. There we go. Okay, so now that it's lit up, go ahead and go back up one folder and go into control panel and Cilia control panel.exe. Go ahead and run that. More info and run anyway. Click play. Okay, so now we have the control panel in front of us. Let's go ahead and look over what we can do here. So the Cilias you can have more than one connected to your computer at a time. So you have groupings. In the default game profile, we have just basic surround positions, which would work well for a stand-up VR game. But if you're designing a game profile for your game, these could also be rooms in a exploratory VR setup, or you could have just a few groups if you don't want this many. So right now, there's only Cilias in the front center group, but we'll see in a bit that if we want, we can move that to one of these other groups. And then in this group, we have one Cilia with an ID of 22. You can have about 256 Cilias plugged into your computer. So the IDs would go from 0 to 255, and they'll show up here. Now, depending on what you have here, that'll choose which Cilia you're actually changing the settings of, and only the Cilia you're actively setting the settings on will light up. So let's go ahead and look here, refresh. That just kind of refreshes some of the settings from the SDK. You usually don't need this button. Then game profiles, as I said, if you make a game, your game profile will show up here. And it'll have all the settings and allow people to tweak which smells are in which slot of the cilia. They can also delete a profile if they're no longer using that game. There's the X button here for closing the control panel. Then we have sliders, which go ahead and turn on the different fans on the cilia to different speeds, depending on how far to the right you set. Okay, I'll go ahead and turn those off for now. Okay, and then we have the drop downs under each slot, which are where you select which smell is actually there. So your game profile will by default, kind of populate these, but maybe they put them in a different order. They can rearrange them easily right here. If you want to, while you're developing and testing, maybe you're not using the Unity plugin or Unreal plugin, you can add smells manually by typing them in and clicking Add New Smell. So if I were to do flower tropical and click Add New Smell, that would show up right there, and that'll show up in all of these. Then if you wanted to remove a smell, I can go ahead and click the same one, remove smell, and that will take it away. Like I said, you can change which group of cilia is in, so I can go ahead and select, let's say I want it in the front left group, I can change that, and now we can see it's part of the front left group as opposed to front center. If you want, you can customize the color that the cilia will default to. So like whenever you're not playing a game, then, or like kind of the default color when you're playing that game, before any light effects are introduced, you just change these sliders to whatever values you want, or type in numbers between 0 and 255 for the red, green, and blue intensities, and then just click save, and now whenever we close this, it'll stay that color. If you need to, if you want to, kind of get everything back to the way it was when you first installed, you can click factory reset. That'll just go ahead and delete all the game profiles and recreate the default game profile as it was when you first installed. And then finally over here, we have a kind of developer feature. If you click install ComoCom, which I'm going to do now, and that goes ahead and installs a driver called ComoCom on your computer and asks you to restart. And this will allow us to work with virtual cilias once we restart the computer. So I'm going to go ahead and restart my computer, and through the magic of video editing, we'll be back in a minute.